water in the southern area that is around Tibetan plateau, but it is not arable. So that they have their own compulsions for diversion of these waters. So over to Jal Chaturvedi, who needs no introduction. So over to you, sir.
Uh, Thank you, Dushyant, for inviting me, and you also is being able to spare time for this discussion. Actually, what you I'll pick up from where you have said. You know, this dam in the Medoc County of Lower Tibet, which is being built, which has been sanctioned now as part of the 14th five-year plan of China, is going to be a massive dam as and when it gets completed. The total capacity of this dam would be 60 gigawatt. And believe me, this is three times the Three Gorges Dam, which is the biggest at the moment. That is
The
one
biggest
part
in
of
the
it.
world. That's biggest in
Yes,
the world.
biggest in the world. The total cost is going to be about $137 billion dollars for the construction of this dam. You know, what has happened over a period of time? Let us just see what is China's motivation and compulsion, and then we come down to what is going to be its implication. You said very rightly that main arable land in China is in northern portion. But the fact of the matter is that there is not enough water there. China has got about say 21% of the population of the world, and they have got just 6% of the potable water available with them. And what is happening is because of the pollution, excess use of pesticide, and other related issues, industrialization and all those things, urbanization, Hanghe, which is one of the two main rivers, Yellow River, is totally polluted. Yangtze, which has got number of dams, including Zagmu Dam and all those things, is the only source. But because of climate change, the overall water availability itself is reducing in China. So the China is quite in a situation. The only river which is not fully utilized is Yarlung Shangpo, which has about say about say 16 to 17%, 20% water of which is in Brahmaputra.
That's
And
right.
the thing is why it is because it is in an area which is quite remote. And
That's
but
right.
at the same time, the advantage is that 2,000 meters of drop in 50 kilometers. So that means the kind of speed with which water comes, it is very useful for generating power. Now, this is one of the major motivation for them. Today, China's situation is about 600 cities are in China are such which do not have potable water. There are 33 million environmental refugees China has got. So with all these things, now second motivation for them is, which they don't say in so many words, by building this kind of a dam, they are trying to give sell dreams to Tibetan that we are going to create generate adequate power for you to have industry for all these things for agriculture and all those things. So that's a second they are trying to sell the dream. So these are the two major issues as far as China is concerned. Now, as far as India is concerned, India or for any lower riparian. In this case, one more thing which needs to be taken into account that there is a UN Convention of 1997 which for transborder rivers. So it provides provisions for the lower riparian states. But China considers water as a sovereign resource, and it has not signed that convention. So they are just not caring for anything. They are making dams. So they're actually on Yarlung Sangpo and its tributary. They are making almost 12 projects, and six are already in progress. Four on this is going to be a fifth project on Yarlung Sangpo. There's a Dagu, there is a Zigzhui, there is a Ziacho, and this is a fourth dam. So all these things, when the water, all these are taken into account. Now, what happens when you create this kind of a water storage capacities? One of the major issues which comes is which where some people should get alarmed. You know, I'll tell you the technical reason. What happens is silt, these are all glacial rivers, so the water comes with, from the glacier with a lot of silt into it. And this silt builds the embankments. Now,
Okay.
if water is impounded, the silt will not come. The silt will not come, so the embankment will start crumbling. And by the time it reaches the estuary area in Bangladesh, even there it is not enough, because India is also making some dams also on this Brahmaputra and I mean its tributaries, Dibang, Kameng, the Subansiri, and all those things that about the 12 dams India is also constructing. So estuary, the water, the since it is not built up the embankment, the saline water comes in. When saline water comes in, all the agreeable agricultural land that becomes unagriculturable. So the downstream people will start having one of the major issue is going to be that food security. Now, second thing, which is a very interesting thing, when you hold water, when you hold water, the microbes they start eating into all these algae and all which is created. It raises the temperature. And when the temperature is raised, it adds to the global warming, and the global warming means less water. So
Correct.
you are getting into a spiral where you will be damaging. Now, as far as Brahmaputra is concerned, the mainly about say almost 700 to 800 kilometers travels to Tibet, which is high on seismic scale because a Eurasian plate and Indian plate they keep colliding, and in fact now Eurasian plate is subducting. So
Correct.
as Himalayas are rising, so in last about say a century, there will be more. There's so many earthquakes, and last being 7 January, seismic scale 7, where 126 people got killed. So there are a lot
Yes.
of damage in case if you create dams because the static pressure which is created, it will again damage. So all these things put together is a very explosive situation. And that is why what you mentioned about, in 2006 they had the hydrostatic data exchange program between India and China. Now till 2017 they continued providing. Now they are not providing. Post 2017 when Doklam happened, or as we say Dokala. So after that they are giving to Bangladesh, but they are not giving to India. And we are impacted by two rivers. One is Satluj in the west and Yarlung Sangpo based on this. Now, damage which was happening because of that erosion of embankment and all those things, in 2017, suddenly near Pasighat, water turned black and very high turbidity. So now that is what is happening because abhi to dam bana nahi hai. But despite that, that turbidity came. So now there is going to be a very major issue. So therefore, the India has taken cognizance of it. But my own sense is that even Zagmo Dam is having started having problem because these are all whenever you create dams on a glacial river, silt accumulation is a major issue. Like in West Salal, Trimo, uh, all these dams have already become non-functional because only 5% storage capacity is left. Rest all is silt. So unless you start desilting them, even our Bhakra Nangal Dam also, Bhakra also is quite silted very badly. So that's a very major issue. Now China does not care for this.
Right.
Now I'll just give you a example. In Mekong, they have created as
Mm-hmm.
many as 160 dams. So as a result, even in the
Okay.
monsoon, when China is sitting pretty with the water, lower riparians like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and all those fellows are having drought. So that is so. This is another, and then marine life in any case gets impacted. That goes without saying. Now, with all this thing,
Correct.
we need to take into account one thing which is very important, that China's, I'll just sum it up. China's trying to claim territories by doing this kind of a thing. Second thing is they want to divert this water which you mentioned. So there are three canals they had thought of. In fact, in Yunnan, they had created a tunnel just to say pilot
Mm-hmm.
project. And now this is the there are three, and they're
Okay.
saying by 2050, central and eastern canals
Mm-hmm.
with tunnels will be ready to take water to northern areas. Now, with all this thing happens, then Brahmaputra's water would be reduced quite substantially. But at the same time, why they are looking for this thing is, that 86% of water gets added to Yarlung Sangpo when it becomes Brahmaputra. Because Dibang and Lohit have got lots of water, a lot of rain water. Now, when this water gets added to it, actual problem is ours. Water is ours. So that is why he wants Arunachal. Because if he gets Arunachal, he gets Subansiri water, he gets Lohit water, he gets Dibang water, all those waters he'll get. So that is another geopolitical aspect of it which we need to take into account. The damages are there that,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
There are, there are 2 3 quick questions which I thought
Mm.
we need to share. Now, this map which is there in front of you kind of gives an idea of the various rivers which you were talking about in the east, and then you have a number of them also flowing from Nepal, and then also from areas of Uttarakhand, etc. They all merge into Ganges, and Brahmaputra comes from the northeast, and they all combine together and get into Bangladesh. Now, if you look at the quantum of water on paper, it looks very high as far as we are concerned, being lower riparian state. Even if I mean, there is some logic that even if the Chinese do have these dams created in Sangpo, it is not really going to make a major difference to India. Now, but people are also talking that if these dams are made and they stop the water during the dry seasons for their own
Lean.
usage, for the lean period or non-monsoon period, then we will be deprived of the water when we require it the most for our own agricultural needs. And like vice versa, when it is raining and they find that the dam is unable to cope up with the pressures which the water will put on the even if it is the biggest dam, great bend dam which we are talking about, they will release the water. So people are talking, the experts are talking that there would be a huge internal migration as far as India is concerned. And if that happens, then we will be, all our plans which we have of settling border areas, vibrant villages, all those programs, I think they will take a major hit. So how do we prevent that from happening? Is there some way out for India? Because the Chinese are not going to stop. I mean, that is one thing very clear. The trust deficit between India and China is unlikely to reduce or shorten. That is only going to remain at least at this level or even wider. It may even widen up. So, have you got any suggestions for this kind of a situation?
Yes, very good question. Firstly, the thing is, just give you a say, analogy. When Zagmu Dam was made, 1.3 million people were displaced.
Hmm.
So there,
Okay.
and that too in a area in Tibet where the
Hmm.
population density is quite less.
Quite
Now,
less. Quite less.
just go down to Assam or
No.
Bangladesh. They say there are almost 1 million people in India and about 10 million people in Bangladesh
Oh
depend
my God.
on Jamuna waters because it
Okay.
becomes Jamuna by the time it
Yeah.
reaches Bangladesh.
Once it reaches
After
Bangladesh, they call it as Yamuna.
Jamuna. So therefore, whenever any dam is made, and that is why if you see, despite government of India 2010, Siang Dam was sanctioned. Subansiri, Upper Siang and Lower Subansiri were sanctioned, but
Mm-hmm.
they were not stopped because locals started say
Protesting.
militating against it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because I mean, whatever it is there. So you will have to simultaneously. So this is where what I was just saying, that by doing this kind of a thing, all your plans of vibrant village program or population reaching to the border, repopulating of abandoned villages and all will go for a six, because when you create that Upper Siang Dam also, which now has been sanctioned, uh, it will have a very major repopulation program will have to be thought of. So
Yeah,
unless you do that, the kind of a, they will create, what we are reacting to it by doing what they have made a मेडॉग में उन्होंने प्लान किया, तो वी आर थिंकिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्री फिजिबिलिटी सर्वे हैज नॉट बीन डन. अपर सियांग, that multi-purpose, there's some Upper Siang multi-purpose project which they are India is trying to do, which will absorb this water. What you mentioned, that in case if he releases the way he did in Parichu, if you recall, from Parichu in 2000 2005, then they released the Jhakri and all those things, Napta Jhakri and all that got washed away. So
yes,
weaponizing by China cannot be discounted. And let us be clear about it, that China will always try to do that kind of a thing. So we got to be, uh, say, physically and emotionally and strategically ready for that kind of a thing. Now, the only thing is that when you plan, when you do in India, the survey is being done for Siang, Subansiri, and all those things. We will have to think in terms of that how do you react to it. One is that China is not going to stop. Let us be clear about it. They don't
yeah,
care whether 126 people get killed or 1,260 people or 12,600 people get killed. For them, it doesn't matter. And in
yes.
any case, who are dying are Tibetans, for whom they have not much of love
Yeah,
lost.
I would just like to inform the people here that in China, the Han Chinese, which are about 90%, 95% of the population of China, they are concentrated in the east, and they consider themselves as the actual inhabitants of China, and the others like people in Tibet, Xinjiang, Hong Kong,
Ethnic
they are referred to as barbarians. So technically, they consider them as lower grade citizens vis-a-vis the Han Chinese. That sentiment is there. So what you are saying, that they don't really bother about whether in the earthquake 126 died or 200 died. It is just one more incident which has happened, and they will move beyond this.
But India and Bangladesh are not having that Middle Kingdom kind of a mindset,
Yes,
which you
that's right.
referred just now. So,
Correct.
what India and Bangladesh should do, we must do something like what in Mekong Delta they have done, MRC they created, that
Mm-hmm.
Mekong River, say kind of a group they have created. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I think it's a godsend opportunity for all that hostility post Hasina, which is there. I think
Okay.
this what they also realize ki it is important for them. So therefore, my suggestion would be that diplomatic parleys with Bangladesh should be done, because if you do that, and for which probably some give and take like Tista and all these things will have to be thought of, because there are
Mm.
54 rivers. India and Bangladesh also have common, and next year, 2026, the Ganges Accord is also coming for renewal. So
Yeah.
therefore, we will have to make a combined response to China. And this is one thing which is very important. Even in central sector, Ganges, which you mentioned, the main water in Ganga is also from two rivers,
Correct.
Karnali and Arun, and or Gandaki.
Okay.
So the water which is coming from there, China has made a dam on Karnali also in their
Correct.
area. They
Correct.
keep sealing. So Bangladesh, that BBIN, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, that will have to be activated in such a way, or maybe SARC once again will have to think of something where a diplomatic pressure group needs to be created against China. Because if
but
you
but
notice,
that is but sir, that is the challenge. What is happening is, if you
yes,
followed the news recently, Yunus has questioned the agreement which we had, which we signed between Sheikh Hasina and the Indian government on Tista, and they again started raking up the Tista issue. Now, if you look at Nepal, Nepal had a pro-Chinese prime minister there, Oli. He's also, started picking up. I'm not now talking of water per se as such, but I'm talking of agreements which were reached between India and our neighbors. Those are being questioned by these current rulers of our neighboring countries, whether it is Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar. Virtually has no control because there are no. I mean, the entire Myanmar is anybody's territory today. Although there
The
is,
12, 15 districts are already seeded, kind of
yeah.
Arakan army.
So there you have the MNDA having an agreement with the Chinese on the northern border. Then you have Arakan Army doing its own gameplay. Karens are the north. So therefore, there is a certain amount of confusion, and I would say a certain amount of instability around our neighborhood, especially in the east, which was not there earlier to such an extent. How do we? I mean, one suggestion you gave was SARC. BIMSTEC also, we have been over a period of time ignoring it. Isn't there now that case to, I mean, start aggressively working towards BIMSTEC or other things, or also applying international pressure on country like Bangladesh, right, to toe the line of a democratic country. I mean, you just can't in your desire to be anti-India, you cannot put the life of people at stake, because ultimately everybody will suffer. Possibly Bangladesh will suffer the most.
Yes.
so so
I told you,
narratives so
in
narratives have to be bridged
Bangladesh,
there.
almost 10 million people, 10 million people are going to be impacted in case water does not reach them.
So
Because
now,
if you see,
so now it's a time for people to write about this problem. What I was suggesting was that we must write about this problem in leading newspaper dailies, maybe international dailies also, so that the message goes to this friend of ours, Yunus, so that he starts cooperating on this very important humanity issue. It's not about India or Bangladesh. It's about people, and people are all related. I mean, we are all related. If you look at Assam, Bangladesh, West Bengal, I mean, most of the people have cultural affinity, if not religious affinity.
no, what you are saying is absolutely, actually, we have to emphasize one point on Bangladesh, Nepal, um, and this is where Indo-Bhutan model is a very relevant, that Bhutan had been selling power from Chukha, and all those other projects which India. So they produce, power is produced in Bhutan and is bought by India. Now, as a result, what is happening is Bhutan is almost becoming middle income kingdom, income country. Now,
Country.
second is then BBIN mechanism has been created by which power was being supplied not only by India to Bangladesh, from Nepal, it is going through the grid created by India to Bangladesh. So,
Yes.
therefore, this point needs to be emphasized on Nepal as well as Bangladesh, that what you are trying to do is its resources are monolithic of Indian subcontinent. Calling it South Asia is actually it's a Western construct that they are trying
Yeah.
to say South Asia. It's not South
Very,
Asia, it's the Indian subcontinent, which is all the
absolutely
resources which are monolithic.
correct.
So
Correct.
therefore, like I said, that there are 54 rivers which are going from India to Bangladesh, including Tista, including Katoya, and all those. There are so many rivers. So
That's
therefore,
right.
my suggestion would be that, and this is where what you are saying is writing aggressively on this and diplomatically, because I'll just give you another example. Nepal has got potential for almost 45,000 megawatt of power, which as on date is about some
10,000.
very
We are
40
we are
megawatt
we
or
are
something is,
yeah, we are exploiting about 10,000 out of that.
yes. So therefore, what I am saying is that in case if they generate power, and you have, because India is a start of power, so
Yeah.
therefore in case if we start doing this kind of a thing, that will be beneficial for win-win situation for them. And this cognitive warfare which China is trying to do is that India is a hegemon, is a big brother attitude, and all those things that will have to be shed. And probably, I don't know, notwithstanding what media is trying to say, as far as government of India is concerned, they are just keeping mum. What is happening in Bangladesh, they are not talking much. Because
Yes.
as they did in Maldives, that by just keeping quiet, by not antagonizing even Taliban, so they are trying to create their own, because they everyone realizes that without India, they even Bangladesh realizes, even Nepal realizes that they cannot survive without India. So therefore,
Yeah.
this is something where more benign attitude will help. Because one more thing, China does nothing for the love of it. 6.5% is the interest rate. Pakistan is totally gone down the drain. Sri Lanka came out timely, so they have been saved.
I mean,
So therefore,
Sri Lanka came out because of Indian support. India, first
yes.
of all, gave the credit line and then gave the guarantee to IMF that we give the guarantee for the IMF loans to be extended to Sri Lanka. So India has struck at the right time, at least for Sri Lanka is concerned. And I believe, and probably the Sri Lankans are much more practical in their approach. Even the current president, if you see, he had a strong communist leaning, and he has
Uh,
said that I am going to discard all that. I'm going to actually look at the country's welfare first and then look at my orientation, whether it was pro China or whatever it is. So I think this good lessons, I mean, these kind of good, how should I say, initiatives which our neighboring countries have done could be coming out more into the narrative which we have to throw out from our country so that people get some sense into them, Look at
because
this fellow. Look at this
even
fellow.
Bangladesh should realize,
No, that's
even
what I'm
Bangladesh
saying.
should realize
So it
that
should be
credit line you
targeted.
have given $1 billion, $1 billion
Correct.
you have given credit line which is 0.1% interest or something, and that too we about after 50 years or something. So therefore,
Correct.
Bangladesh, what is happening is that post tomorrow, when
Mhm.
Trump comes into the chair, I think the
Correct.
deep state influence
Yes.
on these policies would probably reduce slightly, because
Correct.
in their exuberance to create a problem for India, when India tried to mend fences with Russia, they created a Frankenstein in Bangladesh, and now they are realizing, because I think Jack
Mhm.
Sullivan's recent visit was uh, basically to that extent. And that's why when they have removed India from that bark, from that restricted list and all those things, so therefore they
Mhm.
are trying to make but then they must realize that Frankenstein which you have created, and say, uh, from a democratically elected government, which is however flawed it may have been, but now Muhammad Yunus is no base.
Yeah.
He,
I
now
mean,
he is
he's
not
clear.
democratically.
He's clearly indicating lust for power,
Huh.
and he goes about telling the armed forces, "Be prepared for war.
Yeah,
War
they
with
have been buying
whom?
also.
War with
Certain.
whom? With the seas? With Myanmar?
Hmm.
I mean, those are the countries which have absolutely zero interest as far as Bangladesh is concerned. So, is he indirectly trying to threaten a country like India with these stupid statements? I mean, I would call him nothing less than
Foolish.
a guy,
Foolish.
less than a guy who has lost his head.
Foolish. Because
So,
that Maitri Express getting derailed,
yes,
who are suffering? Bangladesh people, because they used to come for treatment to
medical
India.
medical
The
treatment.
power,
Sir, they were going
the
up to Chennai. They were
uh,
going right up to Chennai. All that
yes,
has stopped, and he's hurting
BBIN,
his
you
people.
that Adani, you have tried to antagonize, the power is not
Power,
going to them.
power is
Acha,
not going
then
to the
threat is not going for their industry. So therefore,
industry.
they have kind of a, I think presently they are doing, and that is why if you notice, even BNP is not on board. as far as Bangladesh is concerned. So therefore,
Yeah.
probably I think it's a matter of time before things settle down and they realize that they will have to have a working relation with India. They may be having any antagonism, whatever
Correct.
it is, but then
So the
working
so the
relationship.
So the last question, which or two more questions I have, then we can close this program, sir. We have some technical problems, so that's why we can't take up the comments of the people because I'm not able to see the comments. I'm not able to see the comments questions, so we will leave it as it is. If I had been able to see, I would have asked those questions, but I'll ask those two, three questions. First one is that there is an external angle which we have highlighted, and which is the China being the big bully who is trying to shape the environment around India for India to be at a certain amount of disadvantage, and therefore possibly achieve a favorable agreement along our troubled borders. That's one factor which comes out after our discussion which we have had. The second issue which I wish to highlight here is that within our own country itself, you see that the states are not seeing eye to eye with each other, and they are trying to criticize the neighboring state or the central government, depending on their political orientation. Now, this kind of an approach, I don't think is going to help us in achieving some kind of a solution to this problem which we are talking about. After all, when the people migrate, where are they going to migrate? If Assam starts having a problem, you can't stop them or create a boundary along the Sankosh River and say, okay, partner, stop from here, and you'll not be going towards North Bengal now, or you'll not be going towards West Bengal, or you'll not be going towards the rest of the country. Look at today's vibrancy of India. You find in Delhi people from Northeast India are flooding the entire business world. They are in
Bangalore,
every Bangalore, uh, heartland of India. It is, if they were not there, our economy would be suffering. So, aren't we going to harm ourselves with this kind of orientation of not supporting, not coming up with an internal solution, then going across to the neighbor and saying, Look, this is our position." And I'm typically referring to, here Tista, and you would have heard that as far as Tista agreement is
no,
concerned, one of the states is not in agreement with the proposals which were forwarded by which was proposed by central government. So this kind of, and Assam has its own issues and problems. So
what you are saying
you
is absolutely right. I'll give you a historical example and to substantiate what you are saying, and then I'll tell you my take on this. You
Hmm,
know, at the time of partition, Sylhet was a Hindu majority district in East Bengal. Now,
okay.
what happened? This, the then chief minister of Assam,
Hmm.
I'll not name him because I think that's not correct, but
Hmm.
he said, no, we don't want Sylhet because all these Bengalis will come into Assam. They'll
Okay.
come with their problems. Now, he said, let them go to East Pakistan.
Wherever
Now,
they have to
Sylhet
go.
went to East Pakistan, but all Bengalis came to, and they came to Barak Valley.
Hmm.
So, so, so all these who are trying to champion the cause of their local population, they are
Yes.
losing the major. And again, second example I'll give you. I believe after independence, because India was still feeling that a hostile Western neighbor, uh, so most of the industrialization should be in South. Now, when industries started coming in South, somebody went to Dr. Lohia and he says, look
Okay.
at it, that nothing is coming to North, it is all going to South, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and all that area. So that is the that generation of leaders how they reacted to it. He says, after all, it is part of India. If Bangalore
Yep.
gets developed, so what? So therefore, the leadership, political leadership, will have to reassess their approach to the whole thing, because as I said, that Tista is a because Lal Munir Hart and all, they have already made the infrastructure, Bangladesh. And if we are not giving them Teesta water, what the Chief Minister of Bengal says, that you take from Katoya River or something to Padma River and feed into Padma. But like Bangladesh also has got those pockets where there is not enough of water. Though, although if you statistically see, Bangladesh has surplus water. But
Yeah.
geographically, there are areas which are water short,
And I suppose that's a dynamics everywhere.
dynamics everywhere. So
every
therefore,
country will have such a dynamic.
so probably this is where a good power between various elements of, say, Indian Union needs to get evolved. So even if you go Teesta water to, say, Bangladesh, you will have to assess that what is their requirement of water, and we can find ways and means to augment that. If you are having this, after all, now this Ken Betwa is connected. Now entire Bundelkhand is going to be benefited, whether it is Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh. Once
Absolutely.
this link established, Krishna and that which is that river, Tungbhadra.
Krishna.
So there, then that is what Krishna Godavari. So when these linkages will establish, that the water from north will go transfer to south, and this is what, if we want, we will have to be large-hearted. Maybe, I mean, just an analogy giving, maybe a very light-hearted comment. When a underpass or a flyover is created, for almost 6 to 8 months, people get terribly
Absolutely.
inconvenienced. But after that,
Correct.
they are advanced. So this water connectivity, so this myopia, probably the leadership will have to, say, reassess their and do
And
not live
I,
by.
and I can tell, for people who will listen to it later on, is that at heart people are good. At heart, even the politicians are good. It's only for that very short term political gains that they want to project a point just to get into power. I think that is something which we have to get over. As far as national problems are concerned, these are national problems, these are not regional problems, these are humanitarian problems. And humanitarian problems have to go above political consideration. That is
And by the
something
way,
which
very interesting thing. This Millennium Development Goal (SDGs),
Mhm.
that SDG 6 is accepted 2010, that
Mhm.
water is a human right.
Absolutely. I mean,
So
there is no denial. There'll be no life. Water is the source of life. So if there is no life, what are we going to do with all these political considerations and power games, etc., etc.? I think it is high time, the people like, without naming these people, we know who all are, putting spokes in this kind of positive initiatives, should get over their selfish goals. Sir, we've had a very nice discussion. If you have any concluding remarks, I will welcome you to give it, and then
no,
we'll call it a day as far as
what,
this program is concerned.
what you are saying is leadership. I was
Yes.
just reading a statement by Pema Khandu, Chief Minister
Hmm.
of Arunachal.
Yeah.
He said, despite activists protesting against this Upper Siang, that sump, Upper Siang multipurpose project, he said it is essential. It is essential for taking on China, because if they release water, where the water will go. Secondly, it will benefit us because we'll become power surplus state and we'll be able to sell power to other states when we feed into the national grid. So that is
Correct.
the kind of approach is very essential. Second is, I think we will have to deal with this problem of water at three levels. One is India China, that ELM post 18 December has been, that is expert level mechanism which has been again activated. So that is something which we Indo-China issues. Then second is in neighborhood, that is near neighborhood, that is prop SAR, BIMSTEC, whatever you wish to give the name. Then that is where we'll have to work on. that is diplomatically, and third is consensus within the country, because water is something which is a common thread. And I recommend one small recommendation to you. Clause, has got a big reach to the decision makers in this country. We can think in terms of some occasional writing of what you mentioned earlier, or say Manexho paper or something, which we can work on, and we can develop that, and which can be say issue brief, and which can go to the decision makers, and they can take note of it. Then probably, so these are the three areas which I feel need to be worked
Sure.
on.
Sure, sir. I think we'll take your suggestion seriously, and we will look at a Manekshaw paper, not issue brief. We will share this Manekshaw paper with people concerned, and let's see we are able to do some kind of a positivity, or provide some kind of positivity to this vexed problem. I also call it as wicked problem. Anything related to public policy and humanity normally turn out to become a wicked problem, and so wicked problem needs serious consideration and hard solutions. Sometimes it may be difficult for some parties to accept it, but in the long run I think it will benefit everyone. Sir, with that, thank you very much, and thank you for coming to this podcast, and we will look forward to future discussion on issues that are of concern not only to global commons but regional commons. And water is one of those issues which is of regional commons. Thank you very much, sir, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, and Jai Hind to you also. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thought with you. And it was very nice and discussion. And I think we should have many more such discussions. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.